Hello, this is Glenn. Welcome to another episode of Difficult Questions. This one, should we have trigger warnings? And this one is a episode that was requested by a friend of mine. Really, we're talking about content warnings. And as I was thinking through it and talking to people and getting a whole bunch of opinions, I really think it comes down to life view and how tough you need to be for what situation. I also think it has something to do with words and our perception of the use of those words, because I hate the word trigger, but I'm Generation X. It's not my word. It came about, I guess, with millennials 10 years ago, and it started being used, I think, with content on social media, because we've had content warnings before. We've had ratings on movies. We had adult content on music, CDs. That's Tipper Gore and the Parents Music Resource Center. That's in the 80s. So we've been trying to put warnings and content warnings on material, on entertainment material. But I think we always had these gatekeepers of distributors and producers. And with social media, you now have stuff coming to you from every direction. And I wonder if millennials coming to age in the social media space decided that all of this stuff needed a warning ahead of time. And if you were just going to be nice about it and warn people that, hey, maybe some of this stuff is disturbing to you, which I think is also another problem that people have. I know that I was a lifeguard and a swim instructor. So my job was to know that you have fear, but to push through that fear, not to necessarily comfort you, but to challenge you. And there are people with that life view that feel that their job is to challenge you. And when you put content warnings, that was at least I think in my old perception or my perception, that was something your mother needed to know so she didn't let you see something. But as the child, you always wanted to see something. So now I think as I'm going back in my brain and trying to figure out why I don't like the term trigger warnings or triggered, or why I have this visceral reaction to it, I think it's my mother or someone of authority deciding for me what I can ingest. And that makes me mad. Where other people don't have that life view. You know, you grow up with being able to produce and publish your own work through social media and getting these large followings. And I think no one's telling you you can't watch this. But now you realize that other people might be disturbed by what you're putting forth. I wonder if that's it, because what seems to be very different for a lot of people is what the content warning is called, whether it's trigger or not, because we associate, I think older generations associate the word trigger with embracing weakness. So that's what it's called, what it's on, because we always rate movies. We've accepted that. Some music, especially in the internet now, really, I don't see any content warnings anymore. And then, so what it's for, specifically the friend of mine that asked, she's a writer. So in literature, they're starting to put content warnings. And I don't think they much had that before. I know that I was surprised by the passive racism of Hemingway when someone told me, oh, you need to read Hemingway, you'd like him. No, I don't. Screw that guy, man. And again, that's my trigger. I don't like just talking about race in a really disrespectful way, or kind of that kind of passive racism that was all throughout Hemingway and his generation, because you're looking at other cultures as lesser than yours, and you're not even really saying that. You just kind of expect your audience to also believe that. And I can't deal with that. So there's no warnings for that. However, some author did tell me that now they are putting content warnings on Hemingway and on these authors that are in the canon of great literature. That's the third thing. What are we trigger warning about? Obviously, passive racism bothers some people. It doesn't bother others. Violence bothers some people, doesn't bother others. I've noticed that women who are sensitive to rape have been successful in making people warn people about rape culture, or something that is, in quotes, rapey. That's their sensitivity and other people's sensitivity. My trigger is romance and that kind of interaction of men and women. I never really, because I'm not good at it. It was always awkward to me, and I hate watching that in movies. So like romance movies, all of them trigger me. I don't watch them. But whenever there's some kind of forced sexuality, that triggers a lot of people because of their experience or whatever it may be. I know for me, because I work to try to solve homelessness across the US, whenever someone makes a joke or makes light about homeless people, or there's a throwaway character that's not treated with respect in a work and they're homeless, that bothers me because I've lived that reality. People in car accidents, motorcyclists getting hit, all of that really bothers me because I personalize that. And I'm sure that if you have been raped, you have been sexually assaulted, you personalize that, and you have a heightened awareness to not want to ingest stories about that, or to at least be warned about that. And I don't argue that. I just released an animated short film. And my big thing for me as a filmmaker is I don't want to see women abused, and I don't want to see gunplay. Those are the two things as a producer in my stories I try to stay away from. So in my short film, it's about a homeless dude and kind of his journey. I didn't have those, but in the first scene, there's cursing because in my mind, in that world, it's a fight, there's cursing. But some people have been very surprised by that. I thought, oh, I should have probably put a warning on that. But where would it go and how would it go? And I'm thinking through the logistics and how people ingest it. And I'm introducing it to film festivals now. And how does that work? Where does that warning happen? Who does that warning happen for? These are all kind of difficult questions. And I don't have the answers for them. I don't know what people want and when they want them and how to get that to them. And some people have said you need to just have the respect to give these warnings. And some people view it as sensitivity. They say, you're asking me to be more sensitive. And then I've had people get upset with me at using the word sensitive, like I'm insulting them. And so I've really just come to the conclusion that it's these life views of how you think the world should work, how you think people should interact with you and interact with others. And that's what you want and to consume this media. But other people aren't built that way. So I don't know. I don't honestly know about trigger warnings. I don't know about content warnings. I personally would never call them trigger warnings because I hate that word. Why do I hate that word? I don't have an answer for you. Again, maybe it's this idea that I think it embraces weakness, which of my generation, my father, I remember telling him a story about me going to the dentist and them cleaning my teeth. And I'd never had any problems at the dentist before, but they had to do this deep cleaning and it was so painful. And I remember telling him, now I understand why people fear the dentist. I said, because I just, after I had that treatment, I just wanted to crawl up into a corner. I felt abused. And he looked at me and he said, "What are you talking about, man? You're a Dunzweiler." So that's what I grew up with. I grew up with this toughness that you need to be tough. And I think trigger warnings trigger people that grew up that expect everyone else to need to be as tough as they were expected to be. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think? What are content warnings? What do we call them? Where do we put them? And what choices do we have for what content we give warnings for? Thanks.